Hello, my name is Dr. Esther Trufan, and this is the experimentium.org website. In this video, I will show you the exact rubric I use to grade the discussions generated by my students. In the first step, I will go to Instructor Resources, scroll down the page, click on Rubrics, click on Discussion Grading Rubric, and open the Word document. The discussion is graded on 3 criteria: content, scientific language, and format. The most important category is the content, and this is worth 70 of the 100 points. In this section, I asked the students to meet the following requirements. The majority of the discussion questions have to be addressed in meaningful detail with evidence. This is where integration of observations and data is crucial. The collected and calculated values are used as evidence to support each argument where applicable. The observations and calculations are connected to the concepts under study, and there has to be a conclusion that is based on individual and group results. You may adjust this as needed if you ask your students to do more independent work. If the student submits work that has only minor mistakes and only a handful of them, then I take off a few points. But if there are major mistakes and multiple of them, then I take off a lot more points. If there is no submission or there is a substantial number of major mistakes that I define as mistakes that imply that the laws of nature don't exist, then I will assign 0 points for that category. The scientific language area requires students to do the following. They have to present their ideas clearly and concisely. The chemistry terms that are used have to be done so correctly. There shouldn't be any syntax or grammar mistakes. The sentences should be connected in a logical sequence, and the ideas and content should not be duplicated, going back to that original requirement of clear and concise phrasing. The way I approach this is the following. If I read the text and I can make sense of it on the first read and only identify a few small mistakes that do not impede my understanding of the text, I usually assign full credit for that category. If there are multiple syntax and grammar issues, a few mistakes in phrasing, then usually that moves the students down to 15 points. If there is a substantial number of mistakes, many of which are so severe that it takes me more than 1 or 2 reads to understand the meaning of those sentences, then a lot of points get deducted, and I usually move into that 5-point area. And if I have difficulty understanding even after multiple reads, then that usually is a reason enough to give 0 points in that category, or if there is no discussion, then it's definitely 0 points. In the format area, I want to encourage my students to spend the time and refine their text. This is where I focus on things such as consistent font and type during the text. Usually, one of the first indicators of unoriginal work or copied work in a text, especially if it was sloppily done last minute, is that the text copied from other sources has a different font. And you may often see Times New Roman and Calibri and Arial and some other fonts combined in the same document. That's usually a red flag. This is a preference for me, and you may adjust as needed. I would like my text to be single-spaced with 1-inch margins, and I want an essay-style text that is structured in paragraphs. Some people are okay with each question being answered with 1 sentence, but I find that that does not allow for the opportunity to connect multiple thoughts from various questions. And so I would like the students to build cohesive, integrated texts instead of standalone, simple answers to individual questions. The correct use of subscripts and superscripts in chemical formulae is a requirement for me, and honestly, this is one of the most bothersome when it's not done. And then another pet peeve of mine is when sentences don't start with capital letter and don't end with an appropriate punctuation mark. If the students commit more than 2 mistakes in a document, for me, that is usually enough to move them down to 8 points. If there are intentional, sloppy approaches to the things that matter to me, then more points get deducted. And if the discussion is missing, then this section gets a 0. In the following videos, I will show you how I apply this rubric and use it to grade the student work generated in my classes. Register for a free Experimentium by OpenStax webinar on Thursday, February 26, 2026 at 1 p.m. CST using the QR code below. See you there.